You could get disqualified or fined at the Las Vegas Open this year. There have been two major rule changes that not only affect the upcoming LVO, but theoretically every WDF sanctioned steel tip event in North America. I have made two separate short videos to explain a little more in depth these two rule changes, so without further ado, here they are. The rule is called mandatory marking, which means you are no longer allowed to self-mark in WDF sanctioned events. Every single match must have a dedicated marker. So to be crystal clear, if you and your opponent both agree to do the old walk and chalk, you simply can't. So let's go over some FAQs, shall we? How is this enforced? The ADO will have floor officials to ensure players and markers start on time. If you don't show up to mark, you'll be subject to a fine, and if you don't pay the fine, you'll be suspended from the remaining events. There's also going to be a public naughty list of players who held up the tournament by not showing up to mark. What if my opponent and I just start self-marking because our chalker isn't here? A floor official will stop your match and insert a replacement marker. How do players get assigned to mark? DartConnect will tell you very clearly. You'll see it through DCTV, text, email, tablets, on the board scroller. If your phone dies, there's an on-site backup. Your friends have phones, you simply can't miss it. How many times will I have to mark? Most players will only have to mark one match per WDF event. And remember, being assigned the marker just means you're responsible for getting the job done. You can ask a friend to do it, you can pay someone to do it, just make sure it happens. When will I have to mark? It's super simple. When a player loses, they stay on the same board they just lost on and score the following match. There is one special circumstance where you might have to chalk twice. In the first round, there is no prior match to select a losing player to score. We can see in this example that DartConnect has selected Cloud Fowler to mark the first match on board 1 because she was the last player drawn to that board. This person will never have to play immediately after marking, so you get a break to throw some practice darts if you're the unlucky one. Note this special exception: a seeded player will never be chosen to mark the first round. And let's recap what happens if you win or lose a match. Say Sally Kelly beats Wenda Carter. Sally, the winner, might go to a different board for her next match. It could be board 2 or 3. She might stay on 1. But Wenda, the loser, knows she's going to immediately mark the next match on the same board number 1. What if I'm really terrified of marking? Well, there's a couple of things here. You could pay the fine, find a volunteer chalker, or hear me out, just immerse yourself into the experience. Exposure therapy, right? When I was in Budapest, there was mandatory marking, and I used the crap out of that calculator function on DartConnect, so there's really no excuse with this feature available to us. Las Vegas Open will be run using a board group format this year due to a change in the WDF rules. You'll want to watch this video to avoid confusion and know how to time your breaks properly. Here's an example bracket on DCTV. So initially you are assigned to a specific group section of 3 dartboards right next to each other. The bracket flows and progresses on those dartboards until there's eventually a group winner. Only then does it switch to random board assignments after that. Now here's where people get confused. Let's go back to stage 1 and look at our first group assigned to dartboards 1, 2, and 3. In this format, the match order goes down the bracket on the left side first, back up to the top of round 2, then back down again. You get the picture. The seeded player, Dita Hedman, has the bye, and she's waiting on the winner of Denise versus Patricia. That means Sally Kelly versus Wenda Carter is the first actual match on board number 1 because they are positioned at the top. They will each get a notification that says you're up first on board number 1 with a link directly to DCTV. So Robin Curry and Felicia Graham know they have to wait for that Sally versus Wenda match to conclude before the board is available to them. Important clarification: once the players right before you start playing their match, in this example that's Sally and Wenda, the next players in line, Robin and Felicia, will receive a text that says you're up next on board number X. That does not actually mean now. It means the match before you is currently playing and you're literally up next after that. Think of it as a 10 to 20 minute heads up, not a jump scare. Further, once Robin and Felicia start playing their match, Denise and Cloud will get that you're up next notification, and so on. So in this example, Denise and Cloud are waiting for 2 matches on board number 1 to conclude before they play their initial match. Now going back to Dita, the seeded player sitting in round 2, she's waiting on 2 matches to play out on board number 2 before seeing her first match. Got it? So not only can you predict roughly when you play, DartConnect will notify you as the bracket progresses if you aren't paying attention to your group. The tablet screens at the boards will also be dynamic during LVO. They'll show what's going on at any given moment in time. The ADO is putting in a ton of work to make this run smoothly. Board officials, backup volunteer markers, and DartConnect's software is going to certainly make it easy for both them and us players. I'm sure this feels big and scary, but once you understand it, board group format is actually pretty sweet. You can anticipate your next match, stay engaged, and the tournament runs on time for everyone. I'll see you in Vegas.